Good morning, everyone. Welcome. And welcome back. This is day 2 of our No More webinar series, Mañaina, our elders, our communities of strength, and addressing elder abuse. We thank you so much for joining us, and we'll wait on for others to log on. And yes, you know the drill. I see that some of you have already found the chat and started noting who's in the house. Thank you so much. Yes, and I know there's quite a number from our AmeriCorps Azuda group. Thanks to Nona and Sanctuary for having you on board. Appreciate you participating in this as well. And I'm Cynthia Cabot with the Guam Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Family Violence. Just here to welcome you. We have a quick minute, so we'll just give it a moment for others to log on. Hopefully no one is having issues. Otherwise, if you know someone who's trying to log on, it's actually best to call us and give us a call because we're doing this live, so we're not paying attention much to our emails right now. So if you know of someone who has an issue logging on, please call our office, and the line is 479-2277, and we hope that we'll be able to assist you. Want to do a shout out to our folks from the Mayor's Council of Guam, especially from our senior centers. Thank you so much for joining us and participating. And we've got folks from the Catholic Social Service, folks from AG's office. So it's great that you folks are able to be on board with us today. So let's get started because I know our guest today has lots to share, and especially being that we will be focusing on addressing the care of elders from a cultural perspective. I think we'll have a treat today. And we'll be able to, if we don't know already, learn more about our culture and maybe know things that we haven't learned yet, right? So before we start, of course, I just want to take this moment to thank our funders, of course, and a shout out to the Office on Violence Against Women, as well as to U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Family Violence and Prevention Services Act, for being able to provide much needed funding so we can continue to provide these webinars, training, and other activities to raise awareness. And for this webinar, we are certainly focusing on elder abuse. Here's a quick look at our agenda. And as I noted, we're starting promptly at 8:30, going into 11, and we'll break. And so give or take, depending how fast our guest speaker goes through, we can look at around 9:50 to 10 o'clock for that break. Just wanted to point out, if you weren't here yesterday, that if you'd like to access the webinar materials, please go to our website, and that's at guamcoalition.org. And if you're not familiar with it, look, and you go there, look for the login button, usually located in the top right corner, and enter username is elders, and the password, which is case sensitive, so all caps, EAA 2021. That's where we will be uploading all of our slide presentations as well as information that you'll be able to access after, at your own convenience. Right now, too, we are also offering continuing education units, and this is in collaboration with the University of Guam, but you must participate and attend all 4 sessions. Yesterday was day 1, today is day 2. Next week, we have 3 and 4. Total of 10 contact hours will give you 1 CEU. You will need to contact UOG directly for that. And for next week, just wanted to give you a preview that we will be reviewing adult protective services and how to report elder abuse. Yesterday, we were fortunate to have the U.S. Attorney's Office, as well as special agent from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, talk about overview of elder abuse. And next week, we will have more specifics on how you can report that locally. So just to note, we appreciate your feedback. Please complete our evaluation, and you will be receiving a note from Zoom, an email rather, from Zoom with my name on it saying, please don't forget, thank you for joining us. And here's the link for the survey. So please, if you do not or are not able to access that, we'll be able to connect with you too and let you know what that link is. Also wanted to give you a heads up too, if you are interested in more of our webinars, we have one June 16, 17, 23, and 24. Same time, 8:30 to 11. And this one will be addressing advocacy and services addressing our LGBTQ plus community. So please join us for that. Information on how to register and log on is also on our website, guamcoalition.org, or if you prefer, email us, info@guamcoalition.org. So just wanted to highlight our presenter today is Tony Malia Ramirez. She's our historian, traditional scholar who hails from the Department of Parks and Recreation. Malia is of Chamorro descent, the indigenous people of the Mañaina Islands. She speaks, writes, and lectures in her indigenous language. So it is certainly a treat for us to have her join us. For over 5 decades, she has become known as a Chamorro traditional scholar. Her knowledge of Chamorro culture, history, and language was obtained through Chamorro oral histories. And so in her best style, we will be having a talk story session with her as she continues to engage with us in being able to provide more information about how we deal and care for our elders. She has unpublished accounts on Chamorro heritage through decades of her lifetime research. Her research is valuable because they are not documented in the academic accounts. Currently, she's the historian for the Department of Parks and Recreation and has maintained this position for nearly 26 years. Her primary role is the guardianship of historic resources of the island of Guam. And today we are fortunate to have her present with us. Welcome, Malia.
Buenos dias, Cynthia. How are you? Buenos dias todos. You may guess good morning to all of you who are listening to this seminar today. Gofmaguptu, I am very pleased na mapaisin to talon that they asked me to again engage with you on the social issues here in Guam. Pauguna Ani today, the subject is Pu'i Mañaina. So let me first begin with the terminology. Many elders from Guam approached me and related to me that there is a distinct difference between Umku and Saina. And when you review the Chamorro language, Umku simply means age, a certain age. But it also implies that you have reached sometimes the inability to function within the family system, Umku. And I always saw that as a very incorrect name to use for our elders here in Guam. And so they told me, Saina, is the correct word. Because in Chamorro, Sina means a light, one that guides, one that uh, guides, and one that you can learn from about your tradition, your culture, and your language. So I explained that already. That's why this seminar is titled Imananata, our elders, our light of life, that they guide us constantly. Now, as I go further, let us first talk about the more concept of familia and values. Ni tatutun, diskuti hafa familia, za hafa I familia naman dadanya. From my understanding from a very early age, familia is an extended family system in the Chamorro culture. It is not nuclear. You have to understand that. So what I mean by the extended family is that it is everybody associated through you through the bloodline, not nuclear, which is primarily mother, father, and siblings. That's the way I kind of understood this. Zajangin familia ho, and if you are a family, understand this. You are a family, from the time you're born, hasta ifinatay mo, to the time you die. That is familia. And so, having these concepts as growing up, I knew full well, I'm 70 years old now. I knew full well that my role as a Chamorro in the cycle of life, in the ages of life, that I must always pulan, care for, and adahi, protect, I familyaku, my family, from the beginning to the end. So let us now go into the chronology of your age, from birth to youth to adulthood to assignment. But in all those four different categories, pulan, care for, and adahi, protect, must always be there. We must always, as a familia, care for each other. That's the way I understood this since I was born. So let me give you an example. Again, beginning with the terminologies, nana, tata, mother, father, or it could be the grandparents too. Saina, like. Chelu, your blood relationship. Chelu is the Chamorro reference to your relationship to those in your bloodline and also outside of your bloodline. And I never understood this until an elder was telling me, because when I was doing my research on the family system, social organization, I was learning it from the Western model. Mother, father, uncle, brother, grand this, granddad, grandnephew. And the elder said, the signer said, no, 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 no. Everyone is your chelo. And I went like this to myself, Malia, you've been saying it all the time. When you introduce somebody to another, you would say, Matt John, to be introduced, you get chelu. It's not a blood relationship there. I am referring to somebody that is a part of my circle in the circle of life, again, from birth to death. Sat. I wish every Chamorro, especially the young generation, would grasp this word Satan. Satan means undeniable loyalty to your sinus. Satan edzu napagod. Satan edzu napalaan. Satan edzu nalahi. it is very important to understand this word because Sutton is in the stage of beginning to death again. Sutton Nanana, that mother is very loyal to her children. She makes her children come first before her. Sutton as in a Sina, that Sina puts others before him or her. And I learned this word since I was very young, and it was very, very important to understand this, to understand E Familia Chamorro, the Chamorro family system. Respeto, the other word for all Chamorro-based word, this is a Spanish word. Respeto comes from the Spanish word respect, similar as English. And again, in growing up, I don't talk in abstract. I'm talking about the reality of my experiences. That respeto must be the guiding light of everyone's life journey until they die, irrespective of the age. Respeto. But when it comes to the stage of the sign up, you give more respeto because they have reached that age. As in English, they say, it's a joy to be young, but a glory to be old. That kind of definition. So respeto must always be there. Ofli, another word that I learned since I was very young. Goth in Chamorro means very. Li'i means to see. The implied meaning, no matter what, no matter what your values are, no matter what the other person is, goth li'i, go beyond yourself and see the other person. Because in any family situation, there will arise disagreement, disharmony, but go beyond yourself. Step back and understand and accept. Gofli'i. Every day here in Guam and in the Marianas, because we're all Chamorros, we rise with a beautiful sunrise. We end our day with a beautiful sunset. Dinekuyatdo imanatsum iatdo. And Isaina, again from my earliest recollection, always told me, Guaha mas kiafa undili. There is more than what you see where the horizon limits your eye. And that was a very, very, very valuable reading lesson for me. Cynthia introduced me. This is one of my books, La Sangre Drama, The Blood Coals. This is a narrative of my family's history. Every single name that I carry as a Chamorro, and I can go back to 24 Chamorro surnames. So, Malia Ramirez, los sinanaw Leon Guerrero, si Mañaina Nia, Palomo Torres, Borra Ramirez, Mañaina Nia, Sablan del Rosario, Martinez Torres. And it keeps going back to Diaz, Taitano, Cabrera, 24 different surnames. And as a traditional scholar, you cannot know the place or the people unless you know their genealogy. E familia, going back to that word again, the Spanish word e familia, we have a Chamorro word. And I did that. This is a 360-page book. 300 were printed. Unfortunately, because of the count, they were all distributed. Then I wrote a book on Los Ejemplos Chamorritos. very important to every Chamorro. Los ejemplos chamorritos simply means Chamorro proverbs. And that has always been the guiding light really for me. I may not follow it, but I understand it. Several examples. One, anuntupa ipadgun pinitinya, when a child has a cup of sorrow, un ganta inanamos, the mother has a 5-pound can of sorrow. You can never mention, or I'm sorry, you can never mention, I mean measure the two. And the explanation of that is this. Ipadgun Dangin piniti, when a child has sorrow or whatever, mafatu ya tadok niya, ilago niya. His tears comes, or her tears come from their eyes. Do inana, but when a mother has tears, mafatu di corazon niya. It is from her heart, not from the eyes. Ano na masasangan? Anunsupa ipadgun piniti niya un ganta inana mas. And so this is kind of the examples that the scientists told me to learn about what life is all about. Truly, and I'm 70 years old. And I look through these proverbs, and when I look at certain occurrences, I go back to these proverbs. There's 100 proverbs that I wrote about, but there's more. 2 books that I wrote that guides me in this journey in the cycle of life. Excuse me. And this is very, very, very important. Now, having stated that, what I did with the book of Proverbs was to create stories so that the young children of Guam, the Chamorro children, or any children, can learn the value of the family from birth to death. So let me cite you one of the stories that I wrote. I animated them. In Manmalofan na tiempo, once upon a time, Mafatu imetgut manglo, the strong winds were approaching Guam. The Ipaluma and the birds began to seek shelters. The municipal lugar ni Popanlihin. Anay gumugupo isayna na totod, the Guam bird and the Sanamay bird. Alii iso un neni na totod di in her nest. Tumtumnya. The gumugupo sa tiadman imanglo because the wind was fast approaching. Ileg niya isayna na totod. Alpha Bayutogwi said to himself, what should I do? Should I let the neni totut be subjected to the wind? Or should I fly back and embrace that neni totut and carry him to safety? Abiyagitati isayna na totut, and the sayna totut returned and embraced the neni totut without any question. Where are your parents and all that? It didn't matter. Her value was pulan and adai, care and embrace. Carry the neni totut, and that neni totut survived and lived. Malofan talu tiempo, and then years passed, and the same predicament occurred. Imet gut namong lo ipagsu, the typhoon. Lo esta umamko. I'm sorry, sumaina ineni totut. The neni totut became a signer. And he was also flying to safety. But in his search for safety, Hali, he noticed the Saina Totut was not able to take or to be in a sanctuary, couldn't fly. And that Neni Totut went like this to himself. Kobi Sigi ha. Should I continue? Or Kobi Birazu Takti and embrace that sign. Totut. And he immediately recalled what had happened over 20 years ago when he was brought to safety by a sign of Totut. He turned around immediately, embraced the sign of Totut, and brought that sign of Totut to safety. The sign of Totut never forgot the Neni Totut. The Neni Totut forgot the Sina that saved him, but not the Sina. And he said to himself, God does not sleep. And what the Sina Totut did 20 years ago returned to him. This is what family is all about. Alpha familia. Pulan Danadahi. When I was talking to some of our Chamorro, sinus, Imanhoven and all that, especially the sinus, and I asked them, or they asked me, what is happening here in Guam with all these social issues? Because they don't recall this in their recollection. You know what they told me? Sa Hita ni Chamorro, and I'm talking about the Mariana Islands, all of us. Man malefay here, como familia, man mamulan, dan manadahi ni mismo hagata. Simply stated, we have forgotten how to care even for our own race due to the social changes. Now, here it is. Familia and Guahantia. I also did an exhibit for eFamilia and ECNMI. And these were exhibited 10, I think 20 years ago. I traveled to Saipan, Tinian, Luta with the exhibit La Sangre Drama, as was stated in the book. I even went to California with the exhibit. And again, the word familiar. Alpha familiar. What is family? And we as Chamorros understand it. We are just not embracing it for so many reasons. But let me cite some of the examples. This is my aunt, Lourdes. She is my Sina, my mother's sister. Documents of my family, this is my mother and father. My first voice that I heard, my mother and father. My first understanding of my environment were derived from my parents and their brothers and sisters. They are my signers. Now, I'm not saying that everything that they related to me, I guess were correct. Maybe they were incorrect. But guess what? I had respeto. I do not answer back. I just try to understand. Because I understood that maybe what they said was not correct. Learning another reality from another culture that came to Guam. Oh no, that's not the way they do it. I have forsaken the Chamorro culture. My brothers and sisters, I'm 70. Most of them are older than me. They are the signers of my family. But sadly to say today, because of the changes of the social structure of the familiar system in Chamorro, it is very difficult for us to really be signers to the younger generation because their values were not the values we had. Can we talk to them directly? Can we pull them directly? Can we adahi them directly? I'm afraid not. And normally, the sentiment is, I am my own, it's my life, and I'm sorry. You're a signer, but that's somewhere back in time. What happened? The outside influence became the predominant compass of their life. Golf Natmasi, Golf Lastima, it is very sad. I can't even say that in English because sometimes the more words are difficult to say in English. But you understand what I am saying. That the transitional generation of the familia has changed dramatically here on Guam. I can't say in the cinema. I know it's very strong there because their traditional values are strong. But here in Guam, I would say safely that the majority, there are still many more families that uphold the tradition of family, but the majority, familia, has been redefined. My paternal side, 7 daughters, my father's side, and 3 brothers. My father was one of them. 10 na Famagun, 10 children. 10 na Naubia, na si Tatawiu, from my grandfather and my grandmother. 10. When their parents, my grandparents, became a sign, and when they were not able to care for themselves, who cared for them? They did. They alternated, but they did. They did not make their parents a social issue and outsource their care to the government. That's the way I understood this. It's your bloodline. You care for them. I don't know how else to say that. And I know they have all these public service programs. We're talking about abuse. We're talking about neglect. We're talking about that. And I'm not saying that the generation before me didn't have these issues, but they tried to what do you call that? They tried to resolve the problem within the family system. It's a family matter, not family, government, and elders. And I learned this from my aunt. And as I said earlier, my aunts would come to me and would say to me, you know, Malia, you're very wrong in what you're doing. Oh, Malia, you're doing very, very well. And I could accept their comments and I would never disrespect what they tell me. Even if I think they weren't correct in their observation, I would never put this bit out of respect because they are a sign. And so with 7 daughters and 3 sons, my paternal grandparents never became subjected to a home care, to all these different services that we have here in Guam, even to the legal system. Because they knew the value of familia. Gininiman from the time you're born hasta ifinatay mo and to the time you die. Imagine this was only 70 years ago. And when I look at it today, God, what happened? Have we moved in the correct direction? Ask yourself that. This is again, my paternal side, my aunts. They were really caring, really. There's one still living. She's 96 years old. And I really felt, I'm telling you, I'm failing because I do not visit her. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to go and visit her because she can't do it anymore. Like she would come to me when she was able to do so. Do I need somebody to tell me this? No, it comes from the core value of your familia, familia Chamorro. Again, my father's siblings, Josefina, Emilia, Anna, Hussein, and I learned greatly from them. But not only here in Guam, I travel really extensively to the CNMI. This is my family in Saipan, the Tudelas. I'm related to all the Tudelas because all the Tudelas are Ramirez. That's my last name. This is Vicentin Ramirez Tudela, married to Tanritan Diaz Borra. I think I'm correct there, Familia Tuho. And this is an extensive family. But because they were younger in the generation, I visited many of their children. Si Escolastica, Esco's Bakery, si Auntie Mami, although I don't see her that often, but I see her in Saipan. Si Auntie Biben. They're my signers, all the Tudelas. And I go and visit them. When I go to Saipan, that's my first order of the day. Spiedi familia mo. Go look for your family before you even do what they brought you up here to Saipan for. And I really always enjoyed it because they always had something for me to learn from. And when we're talking on the subject of the culture's perspective of how to care for elders, adahi zanpulan, adahi zanpulan. And don't feel I think maybe that's a problem is, it's a responsibility. But when I was growing up with my mother and father, when they were teaching me this, if you think it's a responsibility, you'll be miserable. But if you think of it as pulan and adahi, it is rewarding because you're caring for those who at one time care for you. It's really very easily understood. This is the Chamorro culture. So as Chamorros, let's embrace it. Let's turn the clock back. Because the way we're seeing it today, we all have to admit something went off track. And I'm not saying that these programs that we have today within the structure of our society are not legitimate. I'm not saying that. But if you can prevent it, then ginsinya, algo mismo tumogwi, when you can do it as a family, mas mege. And tomorrow I have to use the word bendisyon para algo. And in the Chamorro culture, this is something too that I also learned. I masatun isainanya, those who are most loyal to their sinus, their elders, mege na bendisyon uhusan. 1,000 blessings would come forth. And I've seen this happen many times. And among the children too. Even if there's 10 children, there will be always 1, 2, or 3 that are more subtle than the others. That's okay. To me, that's okay. Because that's the difference in the what do you call that? In their ability to assist their parents. But that's okay. But there is always someone within that family that would care for that elder. I don't talk in abstract. I'll talk about myself. I'm 70, unmarried, single, and believe me, at my age, when I was young, I was like that. Tutut neni, flying around. Ang gentempo mo itempo, gumugupo ho karampahoro. Ani este tiempo mo, kalnoa imanok ni figo. Simply in English, it is that when you were at your best of age, you were flying endlessly everywhere. But then one day, age set in. And you are like a chicken when it rains heavy that steps on the side, shivering from the coldness of the rain. Sa tisinya sa unsog, which you cannot or you're not able to do it. Uh, is that the timer? Did we reach? I'm sorry. More. Okay. About the book. Okay. All right. Thank you for the question about the book. Oh my gosh. If I could get the book uh, of my family, I wrote about 20. I didn't write all the 24 surnames because the more I go back, the information was lacking. But what the book did for me, what I wrote, was connected me to the Chamorro Society in immeasurable, really. When I go to Saipan, okay, let me use Saipan as an example. Ang Matugwi, sige siya familiar ko. Siya Tudela, sa Mandamirez. Siya Sablon, ibandan I Katingting, then ibandan I Deda, because two of my great-grandfathers, brothers, moved to Saipan. Si Nicolas, then si Tumbisente. Ifamagunia, ibandan na sa Katingting, sa Ugatsa, Anintingo si Tumben Baras, then si Tan Francis Tancelis, si Tan Virginia Ogud, and no siya, Sainao no siya. Naman malag Palau. But look at that. They even went to Palau and lived there during the German times. But did that separate me from them? No. Sa Sainao. And I look for them. I De Leon Guerrero. Sa iba makakagay, I De Leon Guerrero. Guam Leon Guerrero. Si Tatanbang, for those of you who are from Saipan, si Tatanbang ni, dos Biarno Masagwa. Nung tungwafa. Ifinena na sagwa niya, the first wife si Tan Antonio Taitano Leon Guerrero, Selun Izoku great-grandfather, Balvino Taitano Leon Guerrero. And no na, parentesu todo, the problem was they were much older, and by the time I came to Saipan, most of them have passed away. And their descendants, I know some, but it's a huge family. Mandanyagi, Monzi, Pacific Gardenia Hotel, and Mandanya, iti familian Tatanbang, De Leon Guerrero. Lo si Tatanbang ni, financing ko Famagonia, gifinit na si Tan Antonian, itel ni ko great-grandfather. Ani bumiulu, masagwasan si Tan Maria, or Tan Maria Tan Ramirez Tudela, Unigidos. The Mege Famagonian, si Segundo, Fanani, the owners of the Pacific Gardenia. And I still meet many of them. So they are much, much younger. Walang 21 po todo Famagonia si Tatanbang. And that's the other relationship. Because Tanditan Tudela's mother, Francisca Cepeda Ramirez, is the sister of my great-great-grandmother, Josepa de Cepeda Ramirez. That's just one family. De Leon Guerrero, Manamia, that's Herman Pon. That's the other story. The De Leon Guerrero. Manami, that's Bodit, the Ada, because they are Martinezes. My God, I think when I was doing this research, I was related to almost all of Saipan by the time I finished it. But it's difficult to pinpoint because the families there are large too. But I knew the history. I just didn't know everybody in the clan. All right. So that's what the book does. It connects. And mamangyo lebduni. I leblu finananagwiho. So many things. A book teaches you many things. In the case of the Lasangri Dharma, the blood folks, it teaches us who we are and how we are through blood relation connected. That's why when I write, and I'm from Guam, I grew up in Guam, but since a very early age reading, my parents would always talk about our families in Saipan, in Tinian, because they came from Zam, brought there, but they were still our relatives, and Luta. And they would always talk about their families that are excited. That's why I knew about them even before I went to Saipan in 1968. I already knew who they were. I knew who they were. I just never met them. And just to see that, that the blood really, that we're all over the place. Oh my gosh, it's just we're in Hawaii. For those of you in Mansablantating than Deda, because one of the brothers of to Nicolas and to Vicente, the two brothers, who are the brothers of my great grandfather, who say si Te, Amate Sablon. They had a brother, Joaquin, who moved, who left Guam in 1858. He also had about 21 kids and a wife, but they carried the Z, Zablon. They kept the original spelling. So this is what this book is all about. It's explaining to you the history of the Chamorro people. And like I said, I can't begin writing a history of the people when I don't know who those people are. And I'm not talking in abstract. They're my blood. Si kNOw Anthony, the Charlton, si Tanjitas and si Vicente Tudela right in front of me. This is the old store for Nana Nigayi Saipan Style Center. The Fanan si Tutquatu, Tio si Tutquatu. Tandanya Giza sa Ipan. And then, of course, as Scholastica had her own business. As the mommy is here, I can see her clearly. That's Polly Ferdinand. Then yung Mamali Capucino. When I see this picture, then si Tumanet Tolu, umasagod and si Mama, si Tanusepan, De Leongre Ritalis pa na si Mama. And all these interconnections ni, Dihaga. That's what the book is all about. So, added to knowing the families, I studied the Chamorro Proverbs to know what these families, Chamorro, what we embrace ni tiningota, afa ni Chamorro ni tiningota ni mama panagota. Masya ti tatotsowi no mama fat na ako here. And no familiar. The ekwa no tempo gini ko na mati tempo no Dwayne for the break. Okay. What is that sogwi that panitira 10 minutos that before si talo the unfaisin si Dwayne masya pa na question niya po sa sangan wala pa familia lo comprendis ti Manilu but understand this my brothers or my brothers that Isaina like Ina like is the guiding light of every single society. Kumutin respeta when you do not respect the Sina, guess what happens? The light, inina, mas, kumomum, becomes more and more dark. Has to know. Think about that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, go ahead. Oh, yeah, during this. Oh my God, but it seems like nowadays family have so much personal hardship, drugs, financial homelessness that affects their ability to help their sign up. How would you suggest we encourage the families we help to go back to Pulan and sign up? A very good. Maulikin and Christian, that's a very good question. Of the Pulan and the die. Filipiano, it's not easy. Because we are trying to bring back our, not our identity, no, our values. That's what is here. And so with all these things, you know, when you mention about drugs and you mention about the issues of the homelessness and the financial and all that things, they may be obstacles and all that, but I don't, but I really don't see it that because even in my family, we have similar situations. And so we just have to constantly not give up the pulan and the adahi. You know, I come from a family of 10 children. And sometimes I go like this to my mom, guess na now. Afa na siga o no ajuda don nai itilu no sa ti najuda o siga lati. And you know what my mother would say? Nga maliha asusti. Che lumu lo enwa che lumu. Lo ichi lumu hagao ininisinsen. Zatisinya pareho isinintemo. Your feelings cannot be the same. Zanguahu sagwahu inana. I am the mother, and I'll do anything to protect my child. That's the mentality of our elders, our science, and that's it. We can't give up on this. Let's bring back the pulan and the adahi. You know, when we say, as I mentioned this in the other, what do you call that seminar? When we say hafa adai, it's really hafa adahi, which means how are you caring for yourself? Not just you, but how are you caring for others? And you know, the other problem here too is that the role of the sign, we understand this today. My grandparents, because they survived the war from my father's side, they were always a part of the family. We never saw them as separate, that they had to go here and there, seniors. No, no, no. They were at home. Where do you think I learned Chamorro? From my grandmother, my paternal grandmother and grandfather. Where do you think I learned the first values? Because they were always with us. That was their role. They weren't sent to other places, you know, manamko type activities. I guess if I shouldn't say that. Their Sina role in some way, and don't misinterpret what I'm saying, okay, to the manamko type role, that they are not so much now necessary in the fabric of the Samoru familiar system. Understand this. Sometimes when I'm talking to and you go back to, this is what I'm trying to say. I think that's what I mean by this, okay? Let's go back to Pulan and Adai. And even if it doesn't work, even if it doesn't prevail, you know, like my mother and my father, at dunia hagat niya, they had the consolation that they did their best. Just like me as a brother or a sister with my family, I help also. Sometimes it doesn't really work, but I did what I could do in terms of Pulan and Adai. I fell sometimes, but you know, I'm only human. Okay. Kugamas question? Is there another question?
Leah,
Thank you.
another
Yes, yes.
one that it's me, Cynthia. As you were going through the lines, and I know you were sharing the Chamorro words, how would you refer to then a brother or a sister?
Cerdo.
But then
Okay.
that's also the same term that you would say to, in reference to someone.
Who's not your
Uh,
biological brother and sister?
correct. So how
That's
do you make that distinction?
everybody is your cerdo. You know, because when you're looking at the way they did the how do you call that, the family social organization in the Western concept, right? You have
Right.
uh, auntie, uncle, first cousin, second cousin, third, second and third down, and that came into the Spanish period. And the only reason why that came into the Spanish period is because here in Guam, I remember correctly, and I think the CNMI did the same thing, that we're all Chamorros. You can't marry your first cousin. So you better know who your
Okay.
first cousin is. And you can't marry your second cousin. That's the other thing. Third, that's permissible. And that's why those terms of primer grado, now, segundo grado, now, second cousin, tercer grado, your third cousin, now. But in the Chamorro culture, in its original form, everybody says, that means you don't marry that, you're teru. It's just saying that we are all together as one family. Because you know what? The way I see this, Cynthia, it takes everybody in the community. I think I mentioned this in my last seminar. Now, this can't exist today because Guam has become more complicated. But I talked about the law enforcement. I'm 70, but you know, when I started driving since I was, believe me, 9. I didn't have a license, but I was driving those military jeeps. I crashed a lot, but I drove. Oh my God. There were so many of them here in Guam. I think Tinian had, I don't know how many they were telling. But anyway, okay, so the law enforcer pulls me over. And the first thing would ask me, what family do you belong to? Not even who I am. And I say, sinannounce the Tao, Leong Guerrero Ramirez. And then the policeman was assigned to me, not a law enforcer. And he goes like this, Padgono, my child. You know what's going to happen? If your parents found out what you did in violation, we resolved it there, then and there. And I learned from him. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't speak after that, but what I'm saying is that he treated me like a child and I respected him as a signer. I didn't have to go to the police department, go to the court, give me a case number, and that's my record for for, for God, I'm getting interested with English because when you speak tomorrow, uh, for perpetuity. Could you see that? Can you understand that? What that was the system
Yes.
before? Now, I'm not saying that all the youth of my time were perfect. No, I'm not saying that. But the culture in itself has its way to resolve the situation. It became a community thing. And then your aunts and your uncles would come, Utungafa, go this to me. And I already know because they never asked me anything they didn't know already. But they just wanted me
Right.
to tell the truth. That's the thing about the Chamorro culture. My father, perfect example. He already knows the answer, but he would ask us each if we made a misdemeanor, what had happened. And if we lied, that's when he gets angered. But if you tell him the truth, he can understand. But he already knows the answer. So we don't lie to him because we already know he knows the answer. It takes a community sympathy, not just a police enforcer. But my aunt, because for some reason, maybe the wife of the police officer was a friend of hers and goes, hey, Dave, you know what? Nah, I heard that you did this out there with the, speeding and all that. Well, I won't that. Okay. But she's just telling me, she's not telling me. And I'm not going to tell her, that's not your business. Excuse me. She's only trying to help me out. I have to understand it in that context. Does
And I
that make
think
sense?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, but you share those
But
very
you can't do that
important.
today. Yeah. Because the society is different. Well, we all grew up here in Guam. We knew how small Guam was, and then our society, and we did that. But it takes a community, not just one entity of the community. That's the beauty. And you know what, Cynthia, I want to tell you, okay, growing up here in Guam, and on the village level, right? And we talk about segregation, all these things. You know, in Guam, when you live in a village, you know everybody's reality. You know your next door Chelu's reality, whether they are the have-nots or the half and all that. You know the situation. It's not something that you don't try to know or no. You have to know because we're all in it together and we have to help each other. That's the thing. But like I said, many of these things became outsourced and it became, now I'm not saying it's wrong. Oh my gosh, because there's so many public right, services. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the families can do it. That's it. The familia can pulan. The familia can adayi. Even if your sibling or whatever makes repeated errors, we got to guide them. That's the nature of life. The issues are different. Drugs, as was mentioned by the earlier question and all that. I don't remember reading drugs in my time. It existed. I'm talking to my classmates now, but I guess because I was in the seminary studying, so that was unfamiliar to me. I really didn't know, and how that, the drug scene has really affected our youth and our families. Oh, there's another question from a comment. I agree. Okay, can you read the comment? They can read it right on their screen. Okay, so you can read the comment on the screen. Yeah.
And certainly too, I see from comments that I'm also getting and what has been in the chat, looks like there are some who now realize that they're related to you now that you've given your lines of connection to others. And so true, if we can go back, at least that's something that we can hold on to, is our connection to each other. And by that, it's in the spirit of the family. And again, it goes back to what we're talking about in addressing our care for elders today and how we can look at our culture at ways to prevent the abuse of our elders. Like you were saying, that the Pulan and Adahi, right? Being able to connect with
From
our
birth,
values.
from birth to death,
Yes.
you must have that constant value with you. You know, and it's not easy. Everybody knows it's not easy, especially when there are, you know, misunderstandings and all that. But that's why that word gofli comes in that I told you earlier. Go
Yes.
beyond yourself. These are values.
So,
Go ahead.
so I have a question then.
Okay.
Back in the days, if elders needed care,
Mhm.
who would care for them? Would they be placed like in a home like we have today? Or, you know, what was in the value system, or what was in our ways that we actually provided or supported each other with that?
Okay. You know, in the case of my family, because I grew up with my paternal grandparents, and God bless her soul, I have one of my aunties was Catalina, who married a Cruz Bira. That's the name of the family, Uncle P. And she took care basically of my parents or my grandparents when they were still able to move and all that until they just became unable to do so. And why her among 7 sisters? But the way I saw it, my aunt also had children that needed care. And my grandparents came to our house when my parents would go off island. They became our sign, and we always welcomed them because my grandmother was a great cook that I learned from. Learning from her, I'm not learning from a cookbook, I'm learning live. Why do I have to learn from a book how to make Calaguin when my grandmother's right in front of me? Why do I have to outsource that knowledge to a book? They became functional. And one thing that I learned from my grandmother, Cynthia, and let me tell you this about science. So when I was young, traditional fishing, gadi, that's the net fish. And reading had 2 roles. One is to meet your loved one, and the other is to catch fish. That's the first intent. But many young men and women met their husband and wife through the gadi system. Okay, so the catch is never the same each evening. But no matter how much I brought to the house of the catch, because everything was shared, whether it's a little catch or a small catch or a large catch, even when it's small, my grandmother made me feel special because no matter how small it was God's blessing. If it's large, it's also God's blessing. And she would never say to me, because I hate this Chamorro expression, and no, huh? Is that it? We have a lot of that attitude going around. You know, they give you something, and in your mind, is that all? Excuse me, be grateful that you're even given something. Mauleg niya, manai. Yeah, I'll get that proverb. That mauleg niya that unagradece. It's better to be given something and something appreciated. But I'll get that proverb. It's a very strong proverb in the Chamorro culture in the act of giving. But you see that. Now my grandfather, he was the master storyteller. Okay. He was a farmer, but of course he can't farm anymore because of his age. But did he become dysfunctional in our family?
No.
That he can't be a part of our family anymore? We learn all these examples from him. He loved to tell stories about life, about behavior. See, so they were a part of the, from start to finish. They weren't outcast out to something. No, it doesn't work that way. Not the way the traditional Chamorro society family system is. No, really. Now, I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but they had a system. And in that system, let's make it perfect. Let's make it work for everybody in the family. Is that understood? Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And then some too. And one of the things too, you know, when you talk about Sina, is there like an age distinction? So in the Western system, we've got infants, toddlers, teenagers. Then we have our youngsters, I mean, young adults. And then we become like elders. Is there a time when we can consider, is there like an age difference that comes into play when one becomes a Sina to another?
Well, you mean a specific age where they become a signer?
Right.
Okay, now a signer, okay, in this context, in the familiar system, is the elders of your family. All right. Because in my last talk, if you remember,
Yes.
each day I left my house to go to school, my mother would go like
Mm.
this and my siblings. You know, when you go to that school, Cathedral Grade School, excuse me, that's your home. It's not just a school. So you respect that like your home. You know, when you go into the classroom and the teacher begins to talk, that's your sign up, like me. It's not just a teacher. He or she is your sign, a guiding light, okay, for you in your journey of life. And that's why I think that respect to the teacher was always there in my days. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you see the values that have changed. And we kept quiet in the classroom because that's the way it's done. Respeto. Not only respeto to the sign up, but respeto to your peers in the classroom. Is that so hard to understand me in the classroom? No.
So respect to is one thing, but as the
Yeah.
comment was pointed out in the chat, would not the term Sina be earned?
What?
Would it be earned? Would it be
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
that one?
Well, you know, see, because now you're thinking in a Western concept. Let's think in a Pacific Island concept, Pacific values. Let's put aside what we have learned from the outside to address our needs here in our island. And what we have to do is to go back in time and see the way these things were done. Really, because I think it is for the better for all, especially the young, that they have to see somebody there, you know, even a person that, when in my growing up and pulled me to the side and said, that's not right. I step back and I say, in a way, Jesus Mossy, thank you for reminding me. And thank you, Sina, for that. And if there was no dispute, then truly I was at fault and I should know better because he was trying to help me or she was trying to help. Now I know some of these things are kind of hard to understand because you have all these abuse and things like that. I'm not saying that didn't happen back then, but uh, the concept of the sign, a good sign, maybe that's how we can say it, uh, an exemplary sign is the one who leads, the one with the light, based on the experiences that he or she went through in her journey to become a sign. Did I make that understandable?
Yes. And then on that light though,
Yeah.
how can we, and I'm just going back then to looking at the abuse that happens today, especially among our Sina.
Hmm.
So can you share your ideas? It's in the Q&A. Rose question on your ideas or thoughts on what we can do today, given all our challenges to help keep our signers from abuse or keeping them safe.
Well, again, the concept of pulan, adayi, because that's what they need also. When we were young, when we were born as infants, didn't we need those two, pulan and adayi? Have you ever seen a child when a child is neglected? Because it's the absence of pulan and adayi. When we see our elders not cared for, because it is the absence of pulan and adayi. Let's embrace those values so that, you know, so that we can, what do you call that? Be the family we were and the family we should be, from traditions of centuries of tradition of families. It's not a new concept. No, no, no. Families have existed through time. That's a foundation of society. Without a family, no society can stand. That's the bottom line. And we're no exceptions. We who are Chamorros, or we who are Pacific Islanders, or who we are that are living here today. This month, Cynthia, is Asian Pacific Month. Every May each year, I think for the last more than 40 years. Many people don't know that, especially here in Guam. I did an exhibit at my office of about 15 different ethnic groups here in Guam that make Guam their home, including Chamorros. And one of the comments was, what do you think of the Guam society today in terms of race relationship? And they really gave some very beautiful answers about their experience here in Guam, moving to Guam and living here, and mostly saying it's a very harmonious society. What's happening today in the United States, I think the number about, I'm trying to know the percentage of Asian Americans in the total US population. But you have these systemic racism and all these things, okay? And so going back to my point is this: we're Pacific Islanders, we're Asian. Could we not teach the other side how we embrace our elders? Can they learn from us rather than just learning from them? Oh, this is what has to be done. This is what has to be done. Didn't we have our own way? We're Asian Pacific. And we know that's Asian Pacific. Even in Japan, I talked to many Japanese, and their obas, their elders, are with them. They still are a part of the family system. I think. I hope it hasn't changed. Chinese culture, Vietnamese culture, Chamorro culture, Palauan culture. Chuki's, I was just talking to Chuki's co-worker and a Pohnpeian co-worker, and I said, what happens when a person becomes an elder in your society? Where do they go? What do you mean, where do they go? Of course they don't go anywhere. They stay with the family. That's the way it is. Is that understood? Okay.
And I know also in the Q&A, there was a comment too. And I think we would love to hear comments from our participants too, because I know this is not solely on the shoulders of Malia or the coalition to be able to address how we can uh, certainly prevent or address elder abuse in our communities. One of the things too is I know there are quite a number of you from our senior centers. So a comment was raised earlier about would it be beneficial for our senior centers to integrate their activities with youth activities. So this would be a way of maybe going back to making the connection with our seniors and our young people. And so it may not be a familial intergenerational relationship kind of thing, but perhaps it could be something that we could look at being able to um, instill value system and maybe be a way that we could continue to work with our communities and building the connection rather than the separation. Would that be one way that we could also look at?
Right. Yeah, there's many ways I guess to bring back the core values of the family system in our Pacific Asian culture, you know, because I guess this is happening due to the Asian cultures here with the I don't know. Because I can only address the Chamorro side because I'm Chamorro. But it really just is, it's the family, that's the foundation. And the families have always embraced all these different ways. You know?
No, true.
Yeah.
I agree to that. And then the follow-up comment was that granted too, many families rely on our senior centers because they don't want their SINA to be alone at home, for example. And I think perhaps it was more along the lines of, could this be an opportunity for maybe looking at ways of incorporating youth programs with our senior programs in reinstilling the value system, or perhaps relearning or
Yeah.
reteaching, perhaps?
Okay, what we can do is let's take a break and I'll just think about that question because of the
Okay,
time already. Okay, and then
yes,
you answer that question because I already have the answer for that.
perfect.
Okay.
And that's a
Okay.
great segue to keep people wanting and to be able to have folks come back on. And I
Okay.
know we have thank you, Malia, and you can
Okay.
ponder on that question as well. And I know we have a special treat in our room for you.
Okay.
Yes, you will go on break. And I
Uh,
just wanted to check in with Dwayne. Just wanted to say thank you to our closed caption folks, as well as our ASL interpreter. You see Alyssa there, and there's Kanai in the corner. I can see his shadow. There's his finger saying his hello, his hands. So we also have a special treat because here in the office, as I handle more of the behind the scenes connections with Zoom, we have Marie, and we also have Hendrik, who's in the office, as well as Dwayne upstairs. We also have a special treat for you today. We've got Keenan, who's going to be making his debut. So while we take a quick break, while you do your stretch and go and get your favorite beverage, or perhaps walk around that desk if you're at your table or in your office space, we now have another staff, Keenan, who will be sharing his talent also with you. So this is the first for us, and we're going to try to do something different, because here at the office, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we actually take off half an hour before 5 to do more of our self-care. So the team here has come up with different types of activities. And then during one of our self-care sessions, we found that, our team has indeed hidden talent. So I'm hoping that he is ready to share his talent with the rest of the participants. So may I call him Keenan? Or is he getting shy? Are you there, Keenan? I think he's working on his audio, but in the meantime, I'm going to put up my, there you go. Are we ready? Just to let you know, we have two floors here. First floor is where we handle the main Zoom, and upstairs we have our training room where we have Malia and our guests there. So we're just trying to get that situated. Are we okay with the sound system upstairs? I know the silence is killing me. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, so while the team is trying to connect and address their technical issues, I thought we worked it out earlier and it seemed fine. Just wanted to just review a few details with you. Again, for those of you who are accessing webinar materials, it'll be on our Guam Coalition page. There was an inquiry about recordings. So no, please don't email us. We will advise you and all attendees when the recording is available. We will provide a link to a YouTube channel where we will host and post the recording for all of our webinars as well. So we certainly appreciate your interest in this. And so that will also be found on our Guam Coalition page. And again, elders is the username and the password is EAA 2021. So we'll be sure to be able to get that to you as well. And a reminder, if you're interested in CEUs, please connect with the University of Guam directly, and they'll be able to entertain your inquiry and your request. And so for attendance at all 4 sessions, it will be 1 CEU. And just wanted to point out, we do have our online community resource directory, Pacific Region resources, for all information. If there are agencies or services that you are searching for, if they may be listed. And if they're not, let them know that this is available so we can certainly either update or provide the information on our website. And then if you need to reach us, we're available online. We have a Facebook account. We have Instagram, we tweet, we blog, and that's our YouTube account. We will certainly provide a link on the webpage when you draw or pull down your webinar materials. So when the recording is available, we will have that for you. just a reminder, don't forget to do your evaluation, and you will also get that link. And so I'm just checking, and I know there's information that's in the chat that only about 400 seniors out of approximately 18,000 to 20,000 senior citizens participate in the 11 village senior centers. So certainly that would be one way of engaging our seniors in activities that are in your neighborhoods, in the different villages. But no doubt, I'm pretty sure that with COVID and many of our senior centers not being open to the fullest capacity, it would be interesting to see how they've managed to cope. And like everyone else, there are many issues that are coming up. And so we are just perhaps only reaching the tip of the iceberg. So I just wanted to call on, is the team ready upstairs?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, anytime you're on.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just gonna sing a little song. It's called "I'm Yours" by Jason Mraz. I'm pretty sure some of you know it. It's not that old, like maybe 11, 12 years old. So here I go. Let's see. Well, you done me, and you bet I felt it. I tried to be chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks, and now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my bestest, and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait, I'm sure. Well, open up your mind and see like me, and open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dance and sing. We're just one big family. It's our God-forsaken right to feel love, 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 love. But won't you do, do, do? Whoa, whoa, oh, 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 oh. I've been spending way too long checking my tongue in the mirror and bending over backwards just to try to see it clearer. My breath fogged up the glass, and so I drew in a face and I laughed. I guess what I'm saying is there ain't no better reason to rid yourself of vanities and just go with the seasons. It's what we aim to do. Our name is a virtue, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate our time. Ensure this is our fate. I'm yours. Well, open up your mind and see like me, and open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart and you'll find the sky is yours. So please don't, please don't, please don't. There's no need to complicate, because our time is short. This is our fate. I am yours.
Let's give Keenan and a great applause, and that's Keenan. And Keenan, we still have time for one more if you're up to it. And certainly we see our other coalition team member, our ASL interpreter, kNOw, who's also swinging to the groove of the music. So Keenan, you can start your second song, and I hope you prepared one more.
Um, actually only prepared this one. I do have one more, but I'm not sure how I can really go about that song. I don't know some of the lyrics, so I can try.
Sure, it's open mic season. And then we're going to reach out to our audience. So maybe the next session that we have next week, we're going to see if we have any talents among our attendees who would be interested in joining us next week. We also have our break time session. And I think this is a great way of just kicking back and relaxing. This is really a heavy topic that we talk about. So we appreciate your sharing. And hey, this is impromptu time. So Keenan, take it away.
uh, so I'm just gonna sing a song. It's "One Day" by Matsis Yahoo. Pretty sure some of you heard it. So uh, I'll try my best to remember the lyrics, but here it goes. Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. And I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I'll never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more, there'll be no more wars, and our children will pray one day, one day, one day, oh, 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 one day, one day, one day. Oh, oh, oh. It's not about win or lose, but we all lose when we feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving till the waters stay raging. In this place, you can lose your way, your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it phase you. No way, no way. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more, there'll be no more wars, and our children will pray one day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day, oh, oh. It's not. Oh, sorry, I forgot that part.
Actually, that's a perfect break time, Keenan, because I heard the Agana Cathedral bells ringing in the back to let us know that we're coming back from our break too. So uh, let's see some applause for Keenan and for our ASL interpreter for sharing that music with us. Thank you so much for the break.
Thank you,
And now
everyone.
we're, thanks, Keenan. And so we're just going to do a swap of the seats upstairs and call on back Malia to continue on with the rest of our session this morning. So just doing a quick switch of the seats upstairs. And I know Malia comes with much information, and there we go. Hafiday Malia, welcome back. Thank you so much. You're unmuted. Thank you. All right, Malia, I know you had a comment and a response to the question in the chat. that you said. So I kept that in my mind and on hold.
Yeah, okay. So can you just repeat the question again that was asked, the last question before we went on break, or the comment?
I think we were talking about how senior centers have opened up
Mhm.
and how, there are, for many reasons, folks use that as a place. So at least the Sina in their family will not be left alone. But perhaps this is also the opportunity that we could also integrate more youth activities so we can continue to share or to continue to engage our youth with our elders, our Sina, so that we continue the values that we are very familiar with or that you have shared with us.
That's correct, because like I said, the fabric of the life of the Chamorro family begins from birth to death. And the Sina part in the family is coming to the end of that journey. They are the life. So the senior citizen centers here in Guam, okay, which is a gathering place. I don't want to use the word manamku because to me they're not manamku. They are still able. I go there to interview them. Look how much I learned from the centers. I hate to say manamku center. I rather prefer to say Mañaina center, because they are still able to give back to the community their knowledge. How do you think I accumulated the family history? It's through these signers. How do you think I accumulated the traditional nameplates of Guam? Through these signers? And some of them I did meet in the, what they say, the Manampu Center. I prefer saying the Mañaina Center, because they still have a role in our community. And one of that role, and one of the most important role, is to connect the youth to who we are as Pacific Islanders, whatever ethnic group, and Asians. That's the way I kind of see this. And if the if the youth were brought there with this specific, what do you call that approach? In June, I'm a signer. So one of the sanctuary program is they want me to come to the center to engage with youth in their the age of 6 up until I think in this category up until 17. I go there as a signer, not as a manumko, if you can understand that. So I'm engaging with them, but I'm engaging with them in their center. I'm trying to remember the name of the center. It's something about it's about the youth, and this is a 3-year Anna Grant program. We just discontinued it because of the program became viable via Zoom. But this summer we're going to go back to face-to-face. What do you call that encounter? So you see, if I say, Cynthia, oh, I'm going to go to the Mañaina Center, I'm probably saying, oh, I want to go pay respect to those who have journeyed and reached that age. I'm going to that center to visit those that can provide me, give me insight about, about who we are, our history or whatever, about our customs and traditions. That's I think that's what I'm trying to say. Now remember that the Chamorro culture, I have to speak to the it has really changed drastically. All right, in terms of the way we conduct our traditions. Let me give you one example. When one of my first cousins got married, this is back in the, I would say 70s or 70s. It took a whole week to prepare that way. We were coming to my auntie's house every day, every evening, and everybody had a role. But you know what? When you really look in retrospect, what was going on there? It was a continuation of the core Chamorro values. We were learning from the elders, and we who are young, we're learning all these different things about how to make the food, how to prepare, what the traditions are, and all that. Today, when somebody gets married in the Chamorro culture, I have this word, ma-outsource. Ma-outsource. They go to the hotel, and it's a one-day event. There, you don't have time to talk to your signage.
Right.
Everybody is involved with other things about that particular occasion. But back then, no, no, no. Now, I mean, I know some of the reasons of why it changed, but that's what I'm trying to say. The connections there, okay, have been lost. We still keep the tradition of the Matai, all right, where we meet each other for 9 nights for the Linadjan, the multitude, as opposed to the 9 nights just for the family. But that's a
Mm.
time for us to reconnect, to look into our values, what's happening to everybody in the family, not just one person, but everybody, how they're doing and all that, you know? And that's what I mean by that strong familiar system of the extended family that is becoming more and more absent today. And so what happens? What happens is the isolation. The isolation that sometimes our youth go like this, oh man, who can I talk to? Who can I avail my situation to? Because there's no sinus in a literal sense. I had sinus when I was growing up. And all these things are the social issues. I even need to talk about that one subject because but if you can understand what I'm talking about, yeah, that's what it is. Just give you an example. This is just, there's always a blessing, Cynthia, in everything that happens in this earth and this globe. Let's take the COVID-19 example.
Mhm.
My office is down at Paseo de Susana. In the last year of being there, and the mata tells me the story. Each day I go like this. Oh, oh my God, this is the way it should be. I see mothers and fathers, babies and children walking together, doing an exercise around the two walkways of the Paseo, the Heritage Walk and the Paseo Stadium Walk. I never saw that before, Cynthia. They're just the father or just the mother,
Mhm.
and seldom the absence of the children. But what happened? COVID came and it
Mhm.
built that relationship for them. Because what did we do in COVID? We were restricted to go here and there, but the family,
Right.
but survived the family system. And it was just so, I even was almost in tears to see that, my God, this is the way it should be. Why do they have to be there and there? Why can't they be together? They're a family. And I'm still seeing it today. Last night was full of it. Families walking together. It's not just one, the dad comes down and jogs by himself, the mother comes and walks in the morning. No. Mother, father, and children. And I think last night I even saw a grandparent that was able to do it. But that's the beauty. That is what familia is all about. We have to pull in and we have to adai ourselves. All these other things do come into play. Economics and all that. So when the mother and father works, where can that sign of be? You see, in my experience, okay, like I said, I don't deal with abstracts. I deal with reality. I was the primary caretaker for both my parents, mother and father. My father lived to be 80, near 80, and my mother lived to be 63. She had the
Mm.
health, but never once in that I could say, truly, never once in my, and I don't even want to say the word caregiver, my adai and my pulant of my parents, did I ever make them unable to do what they do.
Mm.
An example, my mother, here's the coffee cup here, and she's sitting over here. And she'll go like this. Mafan and say, all right. And in my mind, I say, I'm not disrespecting them. I'm saying, no, Malia, mom can do it. She can, because I wanted her to walk. I didn't want her to feel dependent that she can't walk anymore because I'm thinking that she can't walk. I didn't want her to enable herself not to think that she can't, and she can do it. And so she just lightly got up and reached for the coffee and went like this. Now, I wasn't disrespecting her. I could have done it. But this is what my parents always told me. If you can use your eyes, use it to the best because it's a gift. If you can use your feet, use it to the best because you are blessed, you are walking. So even a Sina knows this, that they try to do the best they can, even at their Sina age. They can do it, but we have to make them know that they are able to do. They know it, but sometimes we, as the caretakers or the younger generation, oh, esta uncle. That's the problem. The uncle, what do you call that? Attitude and concept. We cage them into this reality that they are not able to do anything anymore. Can you understand this? I don't know if I can explain this because that's the way I'm thinking tomorrow. Really, but and they like that. They like to know that they are able to do it because every Chamor sign-in knows that those are gifts. Gifts to that's coming. They're blessed that they even reach that age. They're blessed that they can even walk. They're blessed that they can even see. They're blessed that they can even cook. They're blessed that they can even cook and show their grandchildren how to make these things that are Chamor. That's what I'm talking about.
And
the
yes,
young
definitely. We can
Yeah.
also look at helping them continue to become and live independently.
Yeah.
And, while they're still being an integral part of our family. But,
Yeah.
Malia, I know you have tons more information to share. So I didn't want to take away from you. So I just wanted to just go back to you and your presentation and your
Yeah.
slides.
Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you.
This particular slide is my great great grandfather. His name is Manuel Ezequiel Gawatsari Sablan. He's from the Te lineage. Again, there are four brothers. Jose, his father, Nicolas, who went to Saipan, Vicente Katingting, Nicolas's data, Katingting is Vicente. He went to Saipan, never returned to Guam. Nicolas eventually returned to Guam. And Joaquin, the whaler, who left Guam in 1858 and settled in Hawaii. And he carried the original spelling of Zaplan, not Sablan. He's a Sina. And even upon his death, I heard stories about him from my Sinas who knew him and what he did for the community of Guam, which makes me so proud. And then his lineage is Sablan. This is his wife, Rita, maiden name, Martinez de Torres, Nanandita. And this is one thing my mother, always tried to make me understand. When Nanandita got married, Malia, and I said, oh, Mom, what? She got married at the age of 13. Her husband, the picture before that, he was already 22. That was a typical marriage age back then. And I go like this to myself. My God, Nanandita was 13 when she got married. She's still very young. She hasn't even lost her youth. And then she became a mother immediately. And in my mind, I'm going like this. Where did she learn all her maternal skills of cooking, caring for children, and all that when she's still a child? Now, we can't understand this in today's world. And then her mother got married at 13 too. The husband was 21. Now you see how times have changed, but they raised their families. They remained together till death. Both my great great and my great 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 grandparents. And they had children. They had a strong familial system. And when I was trying to understand this, and I understood this actually from outside the Chamorro culture, because one of my acquaintances also had the same situation. Went back home. It was an arranged marriage. And he never knew the wife until he was told he was going to get married to her. Now, this won't happen in the United States, okay? But this is the situation. But in that culture, this is the way they perceive relationship. You, in time, would learn how to love your wife, and you, in time, would learn how to love your husband. There's no fairy tales involved in here. This is a reality. And you, in turn, will know how to raise your children, both together, no matter what the obstacles are. And they did. So death do us part. Now, how can we kind of visualize this today? I'm not saying this is at a certain time, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. But it was that strong familial system, not only of them as parents, but the families that surrounded them to have made this possible. Now, there's scientists, and I heard of them. I knew Nandita because she died when I was already, I believe, 12 years old. I didn't know her well, but I knew her as my great grandmother, my great great grandmother, and I can see that maternal, strong maternal, Chamorro maternal, a strength of a Chamorro woman in her. She's a Sino, and she learned it all beginning at the age of 13. This is her daughter. This is her, the bigger woman, and her daughter Guadalupe, my grand aunt, right before they left to California. And the reason why I show this in the slide, because here's my grand aunt, her husband in the U.S. Navy, left Guam in 1933. But how did she survive? How did she manage to adapt and survive in California since 1933? She never returned other than to visit. Was her strong Chamorro family values, and brought her children up. That's her again in her early years of her marriage, and her two daughters, May and June. And these two kept the two daughters. I didn't know the son. Kept that Chamorro family values with them, even though they grew up in the United States since 1933. Familia. Okay, this is me in my house. And I'm reading a prayer service to my family because I am now a sign. There's my brother Jesus, 73. He is now a sign. But could we be signers of those younger than us in their generation? It's really more difficult. It's really more difficult because the way the Chamorro family concepts have changed. These are my nieces, and they still hopefully will retain that concept of Chamorro family and the concept of the caring of the elder, Pulan and Adai. And I know my two nieces here, Tammy and Camilla Jean, the daughters of my two sisters. I know, and their siblings would care for my two sisters when they reach the Sinai age. I know so, without any question, because they're learning it from us. We're perpetuating it. Birth to life, to death. They knew that when they were born, I was carrying both of them. They were infants. Held them, fed them, changed them, because they weren't able to do so. They understand that full well. But one day too, I will become whole. I've already reached it. I'm 70. Hopefully I have health to the day I die. But if I don't, I know that my two nieces here would come to my assistance because we have embedded in them the Pulan and the Dahi culture of the Chamorro, especially of Islam. These are my grandnephews. We are a web of the family. And they will do their part as best as they could. The male and female role are really quite different. But if we instill and embed these core Chamorro family values, they will follow suit. Now, it's harder for me to communicate with them because there is the outside influence, I'm not saying that it's not, right or anything. I'm just saying that the family should always be a strong foundation of everyone. Sure, you learn so many things from institutions, but your family, that is your core value. Take your journey in life. Here's my other families from Cyprus, the De La Cruz. This is Judge De La Cruz's Jose. He went to school with me here in Guam. He became a judge. His father and the mother of Tina Blas, the former second lady of Guam, with Joada, their parents, during the Japanese period. I'm very close to them. Tina's sister and I, Sophia, are classmates. We were together last night to watch the eclipse. Although, we're kind of distant relatives, we still bind because we're family. And we know that. My family's of Yap. Yes, my family migrated to Yap during the Spanish period. That's over 100 years ago. But I still connect to them. They were removed from Yap and brought to Tinian, the Antalan family. The Hufschneider family, because they married into the Antalan, the Flores family, the Fleming. They're all my relatives. The wealth of family. There's nothing more expensive, more valuable in life than your family. I'm not saying that there is that unity all the time. That's to be expected when there's disunity. But somehow it will eventually work itself out. Again, my family's of Itzamorinja, the Chamorros of Yap. This particular slide, as I began in the first, about itinituan, the birth, and pinakpo, ipinatay to death. This is the Ramirez Bible that we use in every funeral here in Guam. It's an old Bible that we place on top of the casket, not a floral arrangement, but faith. That's what you bring with you. You don't bring a bouquet of roses with you up to heaven or wherever you're going. You bring the words of your belief. Next to the Bible is the Ramirez Cross of 1874. We call it the Santa Cruz. And this is the cross that escorts each Ramirez family member into the church for the services. And after the services, would escort the body outside the church to their final resting place. Just again, a testament of faith integrated in our family as Roman Catholics. That's our own practice. Life to death. And here we are at the funeral, burial site. This is the Ramirez burial site at Toksat Cemetery. I'm here with my aunt Pasita right behind me, with Father Andreas, and my first cousins, some from California, but we're still a family. We get together. This is what life's about. familiar. You cannot substitute the familiar with anything else, no matter what you try to do. The family has to be the foundation of those resolutions, really, in many ways. And this is my niece, Fina, and her twins, and her husband, John Leon Guerrero, Ethan, and my little niece, Liliana. This is a baptism, the birth, the beginning of the journey in life, familiar. Because one day, these young, my grandnephews and niece, will one day become a sign. They're young now, but in that journey, they will become a sign. And what would happen to them? If we keep embracing the values of Adai and Pulan, then when they become signs, they would have fulfilled their journey and somebody will be there for them. As we are today, I'm a sign to the twins and the little girl and to Ethan. This is my role, because I'm a signer now. This is me, the twins, and Liliana. Yes, I really do so. I mean, I try to do as much as I can for them as a signer. And hopefully when, well, I'm 70, they're only 1 year old. I don't know how much more time I have. But I know that, just being there, not somewhere else, but just being, and if they come to me just to say, oh, Nia, and all that, that's enough for me for the day. That's enough joy for me for the day as a signer. Not really asking much. It's just for them to come. And the minute I see them, oh my God, I'm full of joy. I'm filled with joy. Because they have fulfilled my role as a signer. That I cared for them and they came back to care for me. Just as I told you about the story of Isainan Totut, then Nyenin Totut, the Guam bird, when the roles were changed. The roles change, but the values don't change. Pulan, then Adahi. And here's my little niece, Liana, in one of the many exhibits I've done. And she's looking up at the display, and she's seeing me in the display as a signer, talking to the young. My role, my life devotion, my, what do you call that? My passion for Chamorro studies, history, and language is really unending. And I would like to do that until I take my last breath, really, because I'm a signer. And if God permits me, then I have fulfilled my journey, that I have engaged myself to the very young. And vice versa. I know the young will be very appreciative of the knowledge that I can impart to them. I know so. I've done it so many times. And they come back to me just to say a simple, Shizu's Maasi. And that's all I need to hear. I don't need to be given anything now. Just Shizu's Maasi. Well, the journey of life, the journey of a signer, the journey of a role of a signer, the journey of the familiar of a signer. That's what we're looking into. And those are really the cultural values that I've learned from since I could remember. Because I was always seeing them constantly near me through all the social fabrics of the Chamorro society, from a baptismal, the blessing of the child and celebration of that birth, the life cycle, to the blessing of that child when he becomes of the age of reason, to the blessing to their marriage, and finally even death itself, the journey, the cycle of life in the Chamorro culture. And each of those are the steps of that journey. And if we can care so beautifully, then tapulan ineni, and embrace that child, when the child is first born, we're all hugging the child, we're so close to it. Really, there is no difference of a sign when they reach that age. Just to embrace them, hold them, and make them know that they are a part of the, what do you call that? The weft of the familiar. So with all of that, like I said, my talk was designated addressing the care for elders from a cultural perspective. That's what it's all about, really. Adahi, Kulan, Sutton, Gofli'i, that I mentioned earlier in my presentation. Those are very strong words. Okay, very deep words in how to care about each other, especially to our sign, based on the foundation of respeto, respect for the signs. So if there are any questions, those questions will, what do you call that? Resurrect my memories of more to say about the care of the elders.
And actually, Malia, I just wanted to point out that Marcy with OPG, another ally that we work closely with, the Office of the Public Guardian, noted, shared that Peter Onidera had his play, Sina Destilado. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, Peter Onidera wrote several plays, and I think I'm trying to remember now the title of that. I think the play was based on a parent that was abandoned, and I'm trying, because you said it in Chamorro, and no, it blocked my memory of what that word was. Say it again in Chamorro. Sina.
I'm not Chamorro.
Oh, okay, destilado, meaning the
Yes.
abandoned Sina. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So Sina destilado, full length. Can you read it for me? And so I can answer the question or the comment.
And Destilado,
Yeah.
elderly and exiled produced the Guam Marriage Council.
Yeah.
As a given leader,
Yeah.
has performed a highly
Yeah, but what's the story of
So let me read that. Elderly in Exile, produced by
Yeah.
the Guam Humanities Council.
Right. Yeah, I remember that play.
It was
But
a
what- I
story
was
of
trying
an
to remember-
elderly couple.
Yeah.
Who
were
struggled
abandoned.
to cope, right, with the erosion of
Correct.
more traditional values.
Yeah, of course they are dealing with it today. Okay, let me explain that again in the personal experience. When both my parents passed away, okay, we as children had two options: to continue with the cultural values of the Mate and the Chamorro, literally the Chamorro culture, the Chamorro traditional culture of the Mate, or what we do today, So in gathering, I just told my siblings, I said, you know what? Mom and Pop would always go like this. Mungasat would don't do that because it's too time consuming and it's a waste of time. That's what they were telling us, actually verbally. But you know what they were actually telling us? I wish you guys can do what we did for our parents. So I told my brothers and sisters on my part now, me, let's do it the way mom and pop generation practice the traditional Chamorro Mate services. Let's do it because that's what they know, and I know that's what they expect from us. For us, we now, the children of today's society, let's not expect our children to do that because the times have changed. I showed you earlier about my grandniece and my grandnephews and all that, but we're teaching them, and hopefully they would do it. But if it does not happen, Cynthia, to me, because of the change of the traditions, and all that, I'm ready for it. What can I do? But I didn't want that to happen to my parents.
I see.
That's what they knew, and that's what how they were brought up. Did that answer that question?
Yes, and I think she was just sharing that there's also that as a resource as well. And you know, Malia, having you on with us today is also our way of trying to be sure that we can perpetuate the culture, the values as well. And so someone else noted that she really likes the term, the Mañaina center.
Rather, yeah. Let's
So,
change that.
so perhaps, how do you think we can start with that? So
Go
maybe
to the
it's not,
legislature.
so go to the
Because I think it's a
legislature.
tradition, something it was an established thing, all these things. Yeah.
I see.
Okay, so let me go back to what I was saying. Oh my God, start my mind again. Okay, about the about the signer role. I mean, uh, really, how did this happen that we could even conceive that they didn't have any more role? How do we allow this as Chamorros? You know that they can. And really they have so much to teach, to say, to learn from. But the problem is, and I know this from oral history, when I go to them, they would go next to me. Oh, mga pagano, oh, no, my child, sa all the thing. They're actually telling me, no, because I do not know, but I know they know, especially when it comes to World War II. But they were made to feel that they better not say anything because what they say is not important. Look how much oral history we lost through that attitude and that mentality. And they all have stories of World War II. The munga, no, the precision, that's not important to learn. But for me, it is. And I know they know it. And they know that they know, and they know that I know it. So, because you do your research and people tell you, oh, you go to that one because that one knows it. But she's just shy because they were made to believe that what they say is not, because they didn't go to get their doctorates, and they didn't go to get their masters, and they didn't go to get their BA and all that. Well, excuse me. To live life, do you need a BA, a master's, and all that? Truly, in the now I'm talking the concepts here of the livelihood of the journey of the life that one leads.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to say. The fulfillment of the life. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And but that's the problem there. When we say man uncle, oh, they're getting forgetful. Oh, this, they're not able to do this. Oh, and that's why they're sent to the center. If I could say what I could say on this thing, I don't want to misquote it. And spare me, because I know the media. Oh, the minute you say something, oh boy, you're labeled. That's what Malia said. I don't want to do that. Yeah. But you understand what I'm trying to say here with the sinus? Yeah.
Yes.
I always enjoy talking to them because, they have so much to say. Listen, when you live 70 years like me, don't I have more to say than somebody that's 15 and 20? Excuse me, I'm a signer.
Well,
Sure,
Malia,
I learned all of this. This is not something I learned from the book. This is something I learned from them.
right. And
I
when
could
you
read the
talk
book.
about
Yes,
oral history too, I think we can use technology today to capture that
that's
and
right.
to record it, like
Yeah.
we are recording this session with you, of course.
Well,
Um,
okay, let me tell you something. Saipan does it. Sometimes CNMI is really ahead of Guam. They wrote a book up there, Cynthia. And I think the title of the book is, I have the book at my office. They drank from their tears. And guess who were the authors of the book? These were middle schoolers who went to their scientists to ask them about the war.
oh,
They told their story and they wrote the book, these kids, and published. Why can't we do that in Guam? No, sa man uncle.
mm,
There, it's still Sino.
got it.
I hope that they're still using Sino. They're not from Guam. But you understand what I mean? A beautiful book.
Yes.
And then they had the young kids engaged in doing the costumes, the traditional wares and all that. And they wrote a book through the oral interviews. That's another book. There's several, they do these really very unique, and it's the kids learning from the signers.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, why
That
can't
is
we do it?
that's something
Yeah.
we can do, no doubt.
Well, the World War II generation is coming to its final chapter. That's where the problem
Right.
is. See, we should have done this 20, 30 years ago. But where were we? Man, the attitude. I have an aunt who couldn't speak English too well, and she was telling me about, her kids were having problems in school. And sometimes I just say, it's like a pun or it's a pun on words. It's just because it rhymes and all that. And I said, oh, because she was really in distress, and I said, oh, what's going on? She said, her kids have an altitude rather than attitude. So I think that's the problem. We all have an altitude. That's not the attitude anymore. We have an altitude problem here. Yeah, Cynthia.
Yeah.
I know. But really, I'm not, just really, it's like, yeah, you know where I learned that it's a joy to be young and a glory to be old? From the Carmelite sisters.
Oh,
They were all in their 80s. Are they going to feel unimportant, or what do you call that? Ineligible to be a participant in
right.
their religious life? Excuse me. The religious life is still death. It's a commitment. I guess there's more questions. I don't know. But sometimes the questions like ignite, my memory of like I said, I talk from experiences. I'm
Right.
not talking a book here. You know.
But speaking about your book, is that
Yes.
still available? The
No,
Los Ejemplos
well,
Chamorritos?
Los Ejemplos Tamaulipas, okay, was published by me, and it doesn't need editing, but it's Chamorro Proverbs, and there was only 300 made, just with my family alone, which I give like during a birthday or something like that. That's very limited. 300 is really nothing in terms of count and distribution. The La Sangre Drama book was published, could you believe this? It was from the Spanish government who saw the notes that I did on family histories and said, let's put this in a book. And they published that. And that was their distribution. They gave me some copies, so I didn't have the control for that distribution. Yeah. But hopefully, maybe when, because I'm coming to, I'm a signer, I better start writing these things because, I'm not going to be here forever, right? I wish I could, but, I love life, but reality sets in.
Well, maybe we can recruit some of the Manhoban to be able to support you and assist you in that.
Oh yeah. No, I
you know.
engage a lot with the young people here in Guam, to the university, to the elementary school.
Yes.
When I was teaching, because we also what do you call that? Have this systemic racism here, right? And then where are these kids learning all of this? Well, I hate to say that, but it's coming from the home front a lot of times, right? So what I do, Cynthia, is I bring like 7 different dishes to the classroom. And I take this basket and I'm around the room dancing and having the food. And I would sing a song that I learned from Frank De Lima, the comedian of Hawaii. He was my classmate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And just looking at him, I'm already beginning to laugh. I don't know what it is with Frank. But it was just, and then the things he says are, my God, am I listening? Is this real? Because he's just that. But there's this one song that he taught me that is so effective in the school for the kids to engage and understand each other's culture, right? And the song goes like this. When you come my house and you eat sushi, that's the Japanese style. When you come my house and you eat sushi, that's the Japanese style. Sushi, Japanese sushi. That's the Japanese style. So the kids start listening to this and they say, oh my God, I have a Japanese friend. I love sushi. And they all raise up their hand. They all love sushi. Where I would go like this. When you come my house and you eat con, that's the Chuki style. And I bring the con to the classroom so they can see it. When you come my house and you eat con, that's the Chuki style. Chuki's con. And then, because we have a large Filipino population, in the elementary school. And I would go like this. If you come my house and you eat lumpia, and all the kids of Filipino heritage would raise up their hands. Oh, senora, let me tell you where that thing comes from, And they're all proud of their heritage. All the kids do. Because I treat them equally. I'm not going to say con is better than sushi or sushi is better than lumpia. No. Listen, we're all together. We're a family of nations. We're a family of people. Again, looking at this family framework of the Chamorro family. And let me tell you, that song works. It keeps them quiet. It keeps them entertained, and they learn. That's the bottom line. So, with again, the title of my talk, how to address or how to care for the elders. The word care is there, in fact, in the English. In Chamorro,
Yes.
it's a stronger word, because sometimes it's hard to, in language to do the cross translation, because the word in this language is a little bit deeper. It has more substance than just the word care itself. But a dai is a very, what do you call that? Deep rooted word of, hey, listen, we're all together, so we better learn how to care together, and things will at least be better.
And I just wanted to just go through some of the comments that are in the Q&A as well as in the chat. One even suggested perhaps Kaha can help you with producing your book. So, hey, maybe that's something that we can certainly look at. A comment was made by Connie, and I know she's with the senior centers, very much involved with them, noting and calling to our attention that, yes, they do have or our senior centers do participate in multi-generational activities from time to time, especially during Chamorro Week. So, you know, they're open to it and it has happened. So I think this is certainly our opportune time of ensuring that our values of respect to our values of Pulen and Nadahi continue so that we can certainly look after our elders, our Saina. A
Right. Yeah.
comment was made too
Oh,
about,
can I just
sure,
interject here? Okay.
yes.
So from the book of Proverbs that the audience saw, guess what I did after I did that book? I went and produced 14 t-shirts and narrowed the proverb to one word. Let me give you two words. Zoasi, which means to have full of mercy. And Guaijadzun, from the word Guaija, lovable. And that was a word here with my insignia in the back of my writings. And I would go to the classroom and I say, Pamagun, children, what is this word? I say to them, say Zoasi 3 times. They say Zoasi 3 times. You know what this means? And, oh, Senor, that means full of mercy, full of just being giving and all that. The whole day they see me wearing this t-shirt, Zoasi. The next day they see me wearing the t-shirt, Guaijadzun. At the end of the 6 weeks, after they see me wearing these t-shirts, I put them in 7 empty chairs. Then I say to the group, go to the chair where you think you need improvement in your behavior. It's just amazing how every one of them basically want to sit on the Zoasi chair.
Mm.
They're fighting for it. They think they all need improvement in Zoasi. Really? And Guaijadzun is the other one. They have to be lovable. You know? And I said, why can't teachers wear this a whole day in the classroom to remind our children of Guam our island values? T-shirt is a very effective communication of values. You know, there's so many words and all different types of t-shirt, but it's a teaching of value. The ones I have in the t-shirt really do. Guaijadzun, Zoasi, Gofli'i, oh my God, what are they? And I would wear them each day. And now they ask me to come back again to teach. I think this is the last year for this, like it's a 3-year program.
Mm.
And they even called me up already. I think the one that called me up is one of the students, you know, to come again. And as a signer, Cynthia, as a signer, such a more signer, I don't use books that often to teach.
Mm.
Let me cite you an example. If anybody has gone or has taken the Hagani Heritage Walk of all 17 historical sites. So one of them is the Japanese cave in Aganya next to the Latin Park. How do I teach the kids? By sight and by their eyes, because the stories in the land. I don't even tell them anything. I let the place explain what this place is all about. I ignite their thinking. So I would go to that cave with the grill, metal grill, like a lockup, and I go inside, close it, and I go like this to them. Is this the type of door you knock at every morning? And they say, oh no, senora. That's not even a door. I said, what do you think this door is telling you? He said, well, it's telling us something terrible. See, they're discovering it themselves. And I said, what do you think happened in Guam that's terrible that this door is here? And then they would go like this to me. Oh, it's the war. I'm not telling them there was a war. They're looking at it and they're saying something terrible happened here in Guam through that observation of their eyes. You see? And that's how I teach history here in Guam. I don't let them read the book and say this. No. I take them to the site and I let the site explain to them the history of Guam. And it's really more effective, and let me tell you, they remember it. It's not something they're going to forget. And then we don't just know that one when they get older, maybe to their children, know that at one time Guam was at war. And then they're going to ask their dad, Dad, how do you know that? Go down to the Plaza de España and look at that cave there. They said, no. And then we say, Dad, Mom, what happened here? Well, it's in the door telling you something, or the grill. Oh man, that must have been terrible. Then the other stories come out about suffering, atrocities, and all that. What does the war do? I don't tell them anything. I let them discover through their observation. Scientists can do that.
Because
Okay.
scientists have a wealth of knowledge and wealth of
That's
information.
exactly, yeah.
And that's certainly what you're sharing with us. So another comment was, do you think the difficulty in connecting with you today is that a pendulum that it will swing back toward the more traditional way eventually? I think for, like you shared earlier, with the pandemic, I think it kind of pushed that pendulum the other way. So families
Right.
were coming
Yeah.
together, right? That
That's
you
a
noticed?
Beautiful, yeah. Really, Cynthia, I have never seen that in my entire 28 years at Parks. We are responsible for health, recreation, history, and what do you call that? And natural resources. That's our mission as a department. But in this one case, okay, on the recreational side, it was just so beautiful to see.
Yeah.
The family. Really, I've never seen this. It was like bringing me back through time. It's like, my God, that's the way it was. You go with your uncle to go here and there, and they're teaching you how to catch this or do this, or your aunt and all that, because the time was there. And
Yes.
sometimes, unfortunately, in our society today, time has separated us through our roles and our work and everything. But what is fundamental is the family.
And
And in
speaking
the
of
family,
time,
right? And the
I'm just,
family and the family includes who? Itinitun, the child that's just born, to the Ifinakpo, the Sina, that has reached that age of experience and knowledge. Okay,
Yeah.
in many ways, because not are all the same. But each Sina that I've met, Cynthia, I'll tell you this, has a story and something to say. There was not one that just didn't have anything. They're like folks.
I know.
And I make
There
them
was a
feel
comment. There's a comment in the chat that I totally missed earlier. And I'm just looking at the time since the cathedral bells already rang that
every
it's about time.
11.
But then can you just check with this Sinam, relative to the familia concept? What is your thought on the significance of naming our children to instill a sense of familia?
Naming our children. Well, it's really something I've been seeing this now in the Chamorro culture. Many young parents are naming their children like Chamorro words. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, I have to go to the restroom, but I'll be right back. Okay.
We're
Just give me a
actually
break.
closing up now, Malia. So we just
Okay.
want to say thank you. We want to
Zeus, Aussie,
also say
everybody.
thank you to everyone too. So appreciate your being with us.
Okay. And I hope they learned something, they can disagree with me and all that, but at least it's what I know. Okay.
Yes.
It's something to
Okay.
share.
So folks,
Okay.
don't forget, please complete your
Adios.
surveys. Adios, and thank you so much. So we appreciate Malia joining us. And we want to thank you again for participating in our webinar today. Want to remind you, next week we have our day 3 and day 4. If you have not registered, it's not too late to register. And so you can look for the links on our website, www.guamcoalition.org. So thank you again. Thank you to our captionists. Thank you to Alyssa and to Konai, our ASL interpreters. Thank you to Keenan and to Dwayne for holding up the fort upstairs in the training room. And then to our special presenter today, Malia, for sharing from a cultural perspective, how we work and address our elders through that. I know after her session this morning, many of you now, you probably know then that you're related to Malia. Okay, so tune in next week. Thank you so much.